Tonight's meeting is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. As a preliminary matter, I'm going to confirm that all members of the board are present and can hear me. I am Bob Springett, Chair. Mr. Jefferies.
Present, Mr. Springett.
Ms. Hunter.
Present, Mr. Springett.
So when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kay O'Brien.
Present.
Chris Dwelly.
Present.
Mona DeStulio.
Present.
Courtney Starling.
Got it. Present.
All right. Dave Sullivan.
Present.
Okay, I don't think there are any anticipated speakers for tonight, so we're going to move forward. Citizens' comments. No citizens' comments. All right, here we go. Article 1, item 1.1. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to provide the board an opportunity to formally and publicly meet the town's new land use director and town planner, Courtney Starling, who is now already in her third week and has been doing a really great job so far with a lot of the work that's in front of the community, whether it be our newest affordable housing project, or the housing production plan, or Hale Reservation. So I just wanted to give Courtney an opportunity to say hello this evening to everyone, maybe give a little bit of her background and maybe some of her thoughts on how her first 3 weeks have been.
Everyone, again. Some of you I've met, some of you I have not met yet, as I've been making my rounds and meeting with various boards and committees. As Chris said, I'm in my third week, almost under the belt here. Just a few more minutes, and so far we've been having a lot of fun getting our legs underneath us. To start out with, one of the first objectives was to meet with the planning board and put together a strategic plan for roughly the next 18 months of what we're going to be doing. So part of that is identifying key plans or actions that we need to complete, either to be strategic, to leverage funding opportunities, or to be in compliance with state or federal laws. And so there's several plans that we're looking at moving forward with. There is the accessory dwelling unit zoning bylaw that the planning board has been working on and is on the warrant for a Springtown meeting. We'll be taking another look at that in the upcoming weeks and running a little bit of public process on that, inviting people to comment before we get into the zoning hearing. As Chris mentioned, we are going to kick off a housing production plan like yesterday. That is something strategic for the town, particularly as we begin to review the town's first Chapter 40B proposal in quite a few years. And that's part of the reason I'm here tonight. We'll get to that in a little bit. In addition, as Chris has mentioned, we have begun the process to address the comprehensive permit application filed at 6163 County Street, which is referred to as Red Robin Pastures. We met with the developer and their affordable housing consultant with our affordable housing consultant yesterday, as well as department heads, to start addressing preliminary concerns and comments. Last evening, we hosted a training with Town Council with the Zoning Board of Appeals on the nuts and bolts of permitting 40B and providing a little context for where we are with 40B right now and kind of how that whole process and game works. And so they will be opening their hearing on that on February 24th. I anticipate this board will get a fair number of comments from the public on that, so we can talk a little bit more about that as well. So we've been doing that. There's grant application to fix a culvert that has been in disrepair since the 1980s. And prior to that as well, it's got emergency measures since the 80s. And so looking at fixing that would be a good thing. So we're going to be applying for design and permitting funds. In addition to that, there is the Hale Reservation. We're getting ready to execute a contract with the consultant. There are some discussions right now about the scope of work, and so hopefully that'll get ironed out in the near future. What else are we doing? There's a lot going on, quite frankly. We're about to get ready to do a grant application for a complete streets plan. That money, the complete streets plans are a requirement in order to access any complete streets funding. Mr. Jefferies, as an avid cyclist, I suspect has some thoughts on where he might like better cycling opportunities. And so complete streets looks at multimodal transportation, public transportation, private vehicular transportation, pedestrian and cyclists, hikers, horses, the whole gamut, because in Dover we have all those users to consider. We're going to also do an ADA, an Americans with Disabilities Act self-evaluation and transition plan that identifies physical barriers as well as policy solutions or architectural solutions, reviews personnel policies, the town's website, kind of all the full suite of things that you encounter with accessibility. That's a federal requirement, so we are going to apply for a grant for funds to conduct that plan, and then we're going to do that plan as well. That's kind of what we have in mind. What I'm here to talk to you guys tonight about is, as I mentioned, there is the Chapter 40B application for Red Robin's Pastures. It is typical when a community receives such an application that you contact MHP, the Mass Housing Partnership, for technical assistance, because every community is entitled to a minimum of $10,000 for in technical assistance funds to help review and process these applications. Because Dover hasn't seen a 40B in over 10 years, we're eligible for $15,000 instead of 10,000, which is good because it generally takes a little bit more work when you're bringing a new board and a new community up to speed with how that process works. It's pretty different from state permitting. The zoning board of appeal, or from standard local permitting. The zoning board of appeals is responsible for issuing or denying a comprehensive permit. So they do. They're responsible for reviewing the Title V septic system. They're responsible for reviewing traffic, engineering, architectural design, all of those things. And so part of why we access funding from MHP is to help assist with that, help assist with getting peer reviewers and making sure that they have all of the professional expertise that they need in order to fairly review the facts of the application. And because it is a very technical legal process, it's important not to screw it up, because that's how you get sued and lose. And so we want to avoid that as well. I'm just going to be honest with you. And so part of it is also to ensure that the town does this strategically and correctly. From the soup to nuts of making sure that we hit all of our hearing windows and that we run the process correctly, all of our notices, all of our interactions with the applicant, all of the communications with the public, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm going to be honest with you, while the permitting window is 6 months, these tend to go on for much longer. They tend to be very contentious. Our local boards tend to find themselves under a lot of pressure from members of the public. And so I want to prepare you guys for the fact that you will likely be getting calls from your residents. And just the thing that we always say is, if you stick to the facts and the feelings, you always do just fine. But it, I will be completely candid that it's, it's likely to raise concerns and questions and a lot of comment. And so we just want to make sure that everybody has the space to be heard, that the application is reviewed in accordance with the law, and that the town's interests are fully protected throughout the process. And so that's part of the purpose of the MHP application, and that's why I'm here asking you to endorse it tonight. Other fun facts, if we access this funding once, it doesn't preclude us from accessing it in the future. You're entitled to $10,000 every time you get a comp permit application. And so if we get another one this year or next year, we will be able to continue to have help.
Okay, thank
Anybody
you.
do you have any questions?
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to welcome you. And I'm going to say I look forward to actually meeting you in person. It's been too much Zooming. I think you gave us a segue into the next article. So I'm going to just move ahead. The agenda item is Mass House Partnership Chapter 40B Technical Assistance Grant Acceptance, and Chris and Courtney. What else is there that we should know about?
I don't know that I have anything to add. I gave you my pitch.
All right, Chris?
No, there's nothing more. I just want to thank Courtney for, for bringing this to the community's attention. It's really just a great resource for us to be able to leverage as we, undertake this project and any project in the future. So it's a really good find. And from what I hear, the consultant that we have been granted at Courtney's request is the best. So much appreciated on that front as well.
Great. John, questions, comments?
3 quick questions, Mr. Chair. If you would like questions now, or would you like the motion now and ask the questions after the motion?
Now let's do the questions, but then we'll do the motion.
Okay. So Courtney, just 3 quick questions on what you mentioned at the outset. So who's our affordable housing consultant?
We have Judy Barrett from Barrett Planning Solutions.
Great.
Judy Barrett literally wrote the handbook on how to permit these. And so that's why we're bringing Judy on board. She's good with the public. One of my main priorities, and I was talking with Judy today to get it scheduled, but next month I want to hold an affordable workshop for the general public just on the nuts and bolts of 40B, where Dover is and kind of what the options are moving forward. Related to, just a forum outside of Red Robin to really talk about the, really the nuts and bolts of what, what's ahead of us and how, again, just how it all works. Like I said, it's 40B is pretty complicated. It involves a lot of jargon. You have, we start throwing around 80% AMI, talking about income levels and, 25% affordability and deed restrictions eligible for inclusion on the SHI. It's a whole thing. And so
It's great.
it's a whole thing. And so it would be good to hold a workshop, and Judy's the person to hold that workshop. She's excellent with the public. She's able to take complicated concepts and break them down into bite-sized pieces that people can actually understand and work with. That's
Nice.
why I want.
I read the article. I read the overview that Chris sent out when he sent the placeholder for the workshop. So that's great. So Judy Barrett. Number 2 is the culvert that you were referring to Knollwood Drive?
No, it's Willow Street.
Willow Street. Okay, at the bottom of Willow Street. Thank you. And number 3, who is a peer reviewer? Like, who would that be?
Okay, so the applicant in a 40B submits reports from their engineer. So you get a traffic report, usually from VHB. You'll get a report on the wastewater system. If it's septic, you'll get a report on the water supply. You'll get a report on the wetlands. And so they have their consultants prepare the reports that are, and they pay for them to talk about their development and what impacts it will have. And what we do is hire our own consultant. Because they're funded by the developers, you draft a scope specifically for what your peer review consultants are going to review as part of, and it's generally they're reviewing what was submitted. Your consultants will then go and basically redo the work to check that it's accurate, and will release a report of findings and come to the meetings with you. And so typically in a 40B, because it takes a lot of meetings, you break it up. So one night you'll do wetlands, one night you'll do traffic, one night you'll do architectural design, and you'll have your experts there that night. And so when they bring their experts in and their experts say, well, it's going to do X, Y, and Z, the peer reviewers are your team to come in and say, we've reviewed this and we agree with, X and Y, but Z is way off base. And it gives the ZBA their own team that is basically on the town side to review the data. But basically there in the world of planning and engineering, there are gold standard firms and then there's the rest of them. And so we're gonna, the peer reviewers are the gold standard firms that we go with. I don't know how else to say it outside of we go with the good firms and the people who are reputable.
Do you and the ZBA get to pick from the list of people, or do you already have?
Yeah, so it's like anything else with procurement, because it's low bid. I always select 3 responsible bidders to submit scopes, and the developer. I think the developer does ultimately choose who they're going to pay, but we get to choose the list of 3 to choose from.
Got it. Great, thank you very much.
Robin?
I'd just like to say welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to working with you. I think that in a sense, getting the application for Robin, is it Robin's Nest?
It's Red Robin, like the restaurant. I
Right.
think of it as just yum.
I know it has my name in it spelt incorrectly, but other than that, I couldn't remember exactly what it was. But so the timing of you coming on board is perfect.
It's better right now than it would be 6 months from now, I will say,
Right,
in terms of our ability to position ourselves.
Right, at least we can do things the right way from the get-go.
That's that's usually the bet. Start as you mean to proceed.
So Bob, would
I
you
wish
like
us all luck.
Okay,
Bob, would you like a motion to
I'm
approve?
gonna make the motion.
Okay.
How's that?
Yep.
I move to accept the Massachusetts Housing Partnership's $15,000 technical assistance grant to be used for the review of the 40B development proposal on County Street.
Seconded, John Jefferies.
All in favor? Hi, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jefferies.
I, Robin Hunter.
Thank you all. Thank you, Courtney. Nice meeting you. We're going to move to 1.4. Email policy discussion and potential vote. Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to present tonight our proposed email policy that I think we've been working on for quite a bit, and I believe you're familiar with from the tab as well. So this came about when I was updating some email groups in our system and noticed some inactive accounts. These were accounts that had not been accessed in many months or had never even been accessed. So I brought this to the tab's attention, who had already done some work on this prior to my arrival. And there were some thoughts on the policy. And after some discussion and some spirited discussion, we determined that it makes sense to provision emails for the following boards and committees, as well as our staff. And it would be elected boards and committees and regulatory boards and committees. Additionally, while I was researching the creation of the email provisioning policy, I noted that a lot more of our neighbors had a robust email policy on email use, and that seemed to be a best practice for towns and something that we were currently lacking. So I included that as well in the email policy. I looked to see what a lot of our neighbors and other towns in the Commonwealth had done for a email use policy, and I folded in the provisioning policy as well to create one overarching email policy. So with that, I have submitted it along with a memo for your perusal and hopefully for your approval as well.
Thanks, Dave. John?
No questions or comments from me. The only thing that, having seen it, taken a look at it, I just want to be mindful of a lot of people in small towns are responding to town matters when they're at their place of employment, like I do. So I use Google as the town uses Google, but I oftentimes, because you're responding to things quickly, I don't switch from Google A to Google B or Google C. So I just want to be mindful of that, David. I want to be sure that we're not putting an undue burden or undue stress on just using specific Google accounts.
No, we're not prescriptive on the account to use. I mean, best practice would be, and I think you'd agree, if given the chance to use the town email, but we understand that doesn't always happen. So we weren't prescriptive on that.
Great, thank you. That's it for me, Bob.
Robin?
I don't have any comments.
So just as a curiosity, is the email policy, as I just sort of scanned it through, I mean, is it similar to what we've done with the social media policy?
Yes, very, very similar, done pretty much in the same vein, both from formatting, but also from, a use perspective. That also came into play as I crafted this to make sure that we're putting out a cohesive statement on all of our use for technology.
Okay.
And I just want to add quickly that town council reviews and approves all of proposed town policies before they go to the board. So they've seen, signed off on it to form.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
sort of I thought that was a step in the process. Okay, good. So I move to approve Dover's email policy dated February 11th, 2021.
Seconded, John Jefferies.
All in favor? I, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jefferies.
I, Robin Hunter.
Done. 2021. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
2021 town meeting warrant article discussion and potential vote, item number 1.5. Mr. Dwelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there are just a few things that I wanted to bring to the board's attention this evening, as it is the board's second to last kind of meeting before you finalize the warrant at your next meeting on February 25th. So that finalization will be the warrant that is what gets mailed out and distributed to all the residents and households in town. So the first thing that I wanted to update you on this evening, and you'll see in the article list that we've been using here as we've gone along, is that the Board of Health, since we last met, has voted and withdrawn their proposed articles around 40U. So that article will be coming off the final warrant.
Chris, what's the number?
Oh, it is number 18.
Formally 18?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we've talked about is how we plan to collapse a few of our financial referenced articles within the operating budget. And this is done so that we can be mindful of and have as quickly as possible, a town meeting this year. I know that's has been an important facet and consideration of our town meeting group. So the two items that we're collapsing in, the first is what is Article 11, the town, it's called appropriate for free cash to fund the operating budget. That is always typically included just as a motion for the operating budget if you're going to use free cash to fund a portion of the operating budget. So it doesn't need to be a standalone article. It can just be taken as part of the motion for Article 4. The second one is the appropriation for the reserve fund. And most communities will typically just appropriate that within the operating budget as well as its own separate line item. So we just collapsed those two, and these are recommendations that came back from the DOR for us, and they were timely since we're looking to consolidate our warrant. So that's the update on our article list, and unless the board votes to scrap any of these this evening, those are what I will put into the narrative warrant that I'll send out to you next week before your next meeting. The other thing that I just wanted to highlight for the board this evening is that based on our discussions with the town meeting group, which again focused on safety, was that we're going to move, or I'm proposing that we move town meeting to a Saturday during the day. This will allow as many residents as possible to attend in an outside venue. And so it made sense to the group that Saturday be the day that we do this, and that it be during the day. Very similar to what we did at last year's town meeting. And so in order for us to be aligned with the town's bylaws, which state that the annual town meeting needs to happen before the second Monday in May, May 1st is the proposed date. That gives us the following Saturday, May 8th, as a rain date if we need it, and to still be within the bylaws. So I just wanted to tee that up for the board this evening. And as I mentioned, as I finalize the full warrant for your review next week, I'll have those dates listed on there as well, which are a requirement of us to include when the board executes the warrant and mails it out.
So we don't have to do anything relative to that May 1st date. That'll just be part of the normal process, yes?
It will, yes. And when you vote on the final, when you vote to execute the warrant in 2 weeks, you're voting to execute the full package. So all the warrant articles that we've discussed, as well as the date and the location listed on the warrant.
Okay.
So that doesn't require a bylaw change, because don't our bylaws say that the town meeting's going to be held the first Monday of?
No, it actually doesn't. No, it's just past practice. The bylaw states that the annual town meeting has to occur before the second Monday or Tuesday in May.
Oh, okay.
And so these two dates allow us. I mean, we could have, town meeting in April if we wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good idea. Let's do that. We'll really screw everybody up.
I think it makes a lot of sense having it on a Saturday.
Yeah. And obviously, when we do this, we're going to continue to use sort of follow the protocol practices that we've used almost for a full year now, and we'd be relying on sort of state and federal agency guidance for risk mitigation, because clearly, part of the risk mitigation strategies is to be outside, and then we'll just follow on from there and adjust depending on what the pandemic throws our way as we go from February to May.
Right, and I guess we just have to make sure there are no sporting events.
Yeah, I think Felicia has confirmed a lot of this with the school.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. So the 1st and the 8th are available to us to use, and the school has reserved it for us.
Okay. So just to really muddy the waters, the building committee is is asking us to look at a June date for the Carroll special town meeting. And they prefer the second week in June. They feel that they'll be ready by May. They want a little time to rally the troops. And it's sort of a serious request that's going to be coming our way. Obviously, it'll follow the regular town meeting, and so we should be reasonably well prepared. But I just, people need to know about that. It was mentioned at the info session last night. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that may happen. So anything else we need to address on this particular item?
Nothing official.
Okay, then I'm going to move on. Item 1.5. No, I think we just did that. 1.6, policy on disposition of surplus material, discussion and potential vote. I guess that's Mr. Dwelly.
Yep, thank you. So another policy for your review this evening. As we were going through the disposition of a police vehicle, we were going through and looking for the town's policy on disposition of surplus property, which is a requirement of any Mass municipality who disposes of surplus property under $10,000. And we discovered that there wasn't a policy on the books. So we crafted one based on what a whole bunch of other Massachusetts municipalities use. Town council has reviewed this and signed off to it as the form. And what I would just say about the policy is that while we didn't find a policy on the books in town, this very much mirrors what actually happened in practice in terms of memos and notification to the town administrator and to the board. So this really just allows us to codify a practice that should and could be codified.
Well, I understand that the prior policy was John gets right of first refusal on maintenance of our equipment. I don't know if is that in here? I didn't see that in the.
It
in the
definitely will
write-up.
be.
I'm
And I just want to thank Kate for putting all the work in on this and looking for best practices and working this through and shaping it out.
I will tell you, Chris, I am so surprised that we don't have a policy because I've been a selectman now for 6 years, I think, and we have voted to discard surplus property. I think almost every year, so we must have done it not in accordance with any policy.
Well, but it sounds like you did it in accordance with the policy. You just
But it
didn't
just
know it.
wasn't written down.
Right.
So, John, any comments or questions?
So that 33-year-old lawnmower that we've been keeping in the back of the town garage, we can't give it to Bob.
No. I want Craig's, 18-wheel 1979 truck. That's what I want.
Well,
I'm gonna give $5,
the highest bidder sold.
and I'm gonna park it in your driveway.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
I have 7
Robin?
vehicles there now.
Robin, any comments or questions?
I made my comments already. I'm
You're stunned. You're so
speechless that there
stunned.
was no policy.
All right. Therefore, I move to approve the policy on the disposition of surplus material dated February 11th, 2021.
Seconded, John Jefferies.
All in favor? Aye, Bob Spratt.
Aye, John Jefferies.
I, Robin Hunter.
Done. Item 1.7, Board of Selectmen updates. Presenter, Bob Springett, whoever that guy is. Those of you who attended the information session on the Carroll Building, raise your hands, please. Okay, good. So last night at the information session, the architects reviewed 4 facility options, 2 for renovation and 2 for new build. And at the end of the presentation, attendees at the forum were asked to select one of each for further development. The building committee is also sending out a survey to residents to provide an opportunity to express their preference on these 4 choices. So you pick one of the renovate, or you pick one of the new build. So I'm asking people to participate. The more people we hear from, that'll help ensure that what the committee is working on and taking forward are the right options for the town. So it's really pretty important. So I understand that the survey will be available on the town's website, I think on Facebook page and Twitter. And just to remind people, all building committee material, all the work that's been done is also available on the website. I got a note, I guess it must have been earlier, either today or yesterday, from an individual who was saying it's really hard for people who have less technical skills to sort of know what's going on and sort of be aware. And the person said, they were talking about the tab or the newspapers. I mean, they don't exist anymore. And if they do exist, they come out bi-weekly, and so the work isn't current. So the information is stale. So we have to really make sure, and I know the building committee really has taken many steps to try to get the information out to as many people as possible. But sometimes we have people who just aren't computer literate, and we need to find other ways to get the information out. I mean, this Carroll Building Committee is going to be it's a big deal. It's a big step for the town. And I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to participate and have their voices heard as we go forward. So redouble the efforts there. The other thing I would like to say is that I'm also asking everyone to look at the community center options. The options that are being developed, because they provide tremendous opportunities that these facilities will enable, and they will provide a really welcoming environment for people who use the facility. So when you look at these various options, I really hope you conclude that residents will be much better served by either option that may be chosen. Hands down, they are much better than what we can get at Carroll today. So it's important that you participate. It's important that you review the material. It's important that you get answers to your questions to make sure that as we move this process along, and we may have a special town meeting in June, that you're well informed, you can make an informed decision about which way you would like the town to go. Thank you. Moving on. John?
Very well said, Bob. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything. Listening to all the presentations, I think the three of us have been on every single one, every outreach session, and the consistent theme is we're going to do what you, the town, all of the interested parties have asked for, wished for, hoped for, and we're going to consolidate that into these options, which I think you outlined very well. The one thing that I will also add that Ford mentioned three separate times, is if there are a group that wants to add a specific increase of size, or a specific item, if you will, to the building process, they can do that. They can add something that may not exist within these options to it. And he highly recommended, if people want to do that, they can do it. Whether people do that or not, the point was you can, and if you feel that it is absolutely critical for whatever it is to be added to the process, please take it upon yourself to do that, to add it to the process. So, but other than that, I just agree with everything that was said last night. I thought it was, as we discussed earlier, very well done. And to the point, Bob, about folks that are used to getting the information one particular way. Obviously, for the past year, we've been dealing with the COVID. You don't have access like you did to the library or to areas where you may get printed information. And you have to take it upon yourself to find the way around how you were getting the information in the past. It is out there. It's accessible. Ask for help. As Ruth Townsend said last night, call her, email her, reach out to her. They will get you the information. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Robin? You're muted, but
Rio is making a lot of noise. So,
he's hungry.
no, he would like to play soccer right now. So I thought, again, I thought the information session was really well done. Last time I offered some suggestions about being more direct when answering the questions. And I thought this time that the questions were answered very well. There was definitely a recurring theme with the questions. The concern that seniors had about potentially having the COA on the second floor and that not being accessible to them. And I thought those were answered well. And I thought the questions about a larger gym were answered very well. The other thing that I think the committee successfully conveyed last night was that this is not this is a community center. It's not a building specified for certain activities. It's for all activities, and it needs to be flexible. So you're not going to have a dedicated dance studio. You're not going to have a dedicated meeting room. You know, these are multi-purpose rooms made for the community. And this is the first time I actually think that that concept was very well conveyed.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. It's really been an interesting evolution over the past, I guess, almost 7 months. I mean, if you go back to 2019, a year and a half. So we did have
10 years here, Bob.
Excuse me, yeah, 20 years. Yeah, Ford was only like 12 when this started. The interesting thing is obviously every town has interest groups, and we tried to in 19 to set up a sort of composite benchmark community center, and it had X, Y, and Z. And as this, and we always, and the committee, as they listen to the town, listen to the users. They had several different ideas of how to expand different areas of it. And so when I look at, this is getting closer to, I wouldn't say a final product, but it's really pretty narrowed down. And of course, the other thing that's happened especially over the last month and a half is that people have updated the cost side of the facilities. And so the things that I saw and you saw last night, I mean, are really a nice blend of space and rooms to truly meet the sports interest groups in recreation and the COA interest groups, and those in between who may want to have a book club, who may want to play cards, who may want to socialize. It's really a pretty nice blend of spaces for flexible use for the future. And I thought that really did come across last night, and why I'm I want to really encourage people to take a look at the material. And so, yes, and the idea to stick to a budget guidance provided by the 2019 town meeting keeps everybody grounded.
Right.
And so to be really, so the next step is the building committee will get all the feedback from last night and from the survey, and that'll all be reviewed at their upcoming meeting on Monday. And with the having access to and having reviewed the feedback, the building committee will vote which options to move to schematic design. And then those two options will be fleshed out, all detailed, and ultimately be presented at a special town meeting. So actually, this thing's actually rolling down the track. So that's also a pretty positive thing. All right, so Robin, any other updates?
I do not have any, not this week.
John?
The open space met. There's really nothing specific to add. We had Courtney was introduced Bob to the open space group, and
yeah, I sort of heard that.
She did an outstanding job. I ended the meeting with, it's good for Courtney and for the open space people. It's going to be like drinking out of a fire hose. They're going to want her to be involved in so many things that as I mentioned to Chris, I'll just reiterate it to you and Robin, is that we really have to build guidelines around the use of Courtney. We really have to create a buffer zone for the first several months for Courtney, because people are going to really, she has such an infectious enthusiasm that people are going to gravitate to her for everything. So everything related to, space or planning or you name it, from housing. So we really have to build a a no-fly zone for 6 months or maybe more, and really have Chris, limit the access to Courtney.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what we did with poor Dave was send him up the attic for the first 3 months in the summertime, for crying out loud.
Dave,
But didn't Courtney say she has an 18-month priority list?
Yeah.
I'm not quite
Yeah,
sure.
well,
where
what she
she
talked
put-
about was only what she did on day one. So
Right. I think I heard that correctly.
I think you did. 18-month strategic plan.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to move on. Any comments on the projected agenda items?
No.
All righty. Town administrator updates, Mr. Dwelly.
A few quick things for the board this evening. To start on the COVID-19 front, everything continues to be focused on vaccines and getting access to them. The Council on Aging has done a really good job in helping to assist seniors with questions on how to navigate the state site, how to sign up, where to look for potential sites, and just answer and just be a resource for them, which has been really nice. I've been in touch with Janet about starting and working with the Board of Health to start a publicity campaign as new sites come on board. So Natick was just released yesterday as a new center, which is, pretty closer than Gillette for us. So to make sure that we're getting that information up and out to our residents. And I continue to touch base with our neighbors in Needham and in Medfield about potential partnership opportunities and any ways for us to be able to either provide vaccines directly to our residents or another opportunity for them to be able to go over to those sites. So Needham has been fantastic and has been a host site for us in the past as it relates to public safety responders, and has been in regular touch with us and with the Board of Health and with other folks in town on doing all that they can do. But unfortunately, we're still at a point where it comes down to the actual distribution of the vaccines and the availability of them at these sites. And on that note, Denise Garlick and I check in on a weekly basis on progress on what's happening at the federal and really the state level, and how that can come back to us locally in a perhaps a better and much improved way. So I appreciate her support in the strings that she's pulling behind the scenes to help get our more local areas some additional vaccines. So I just wanted to provide the board an update on that. Bob, did you have?
So Chris, so anecdotally, it seems like things are smoothed out and ramping up. Is that true?
Yes, but I'd say that there's still there's still a certain level of frustration out there, and I think it's just kind of it's the shell shock of the initial rollout from the state has stayed with people. But that's a good way to put it, Bob, of where we currently are. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other thing that I just highlight this evening is, and actually Courtney touched on it briefly, so we're getting close to the Hale Task Force has selected an appraisal firm, and we're just working out the logistics with that firm as it relates to shaping out the scope of work and the final contract. So hope to have that before you at your next meeting.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it for this evening.
Bob, can I just make a quick comment, follow up with on Chris with regards to Hale? And I will say, just with regards to Hale and the ongoing conversations that I have and the Hale Task Force has with Eric Arnold, that you will see a very different tone of voice with Hale the next time we get together. And it's, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It's COVID has had a dramatic impact on their resources. They just don't have, they went through an entire season last year without without the revenue that they typically have. They went from a surplus to a deficit, and then the reality of operating in a deficit with no resources has really exacerbated their timeline. So they're going to have to really be aggressive with Dover and Westwood to say this has to be a priority. You have to have a realistic timeline, and the reality is we may not just be able to meet the timeline that they're now under with regards to their financial need. So what that simply means is there is now a plan B from Hale, and plan B will be selling lots. So the reality of that is we have to then be prepared to enter that avenue of discussion with how that would impact us if we don't do the process of raising money for a conservation restriction.
Thank you, John. Well, I have Dave Sullivan here. Dave, could you give us a quick update on the cemetery app and the time and attendance system?
Sure. So for the time and attendance system, we've had 2 pre-meetings with the finance staff to go over some of the paperwork and the spreadsheets that we're required to fill out, and so we can start to look at the system and build it out. We had our kickoff meeting on Tuesday, so that's going well, and just waiting for some documents from Harper's for the time and attendance. For the cemetery, we just received our final proposal, and that's from a company called Web Cemeteries. So I have a matrix to work on to grade and figure out which one of those systems we will go forward with.
Okay, thank you. And I missed a dot point that I wanted to ask. Does anybody know if any board or committee have done any info sessions regarding their warrant articles? Or if any plan to go to the public? And Chris, can you remind me what we're going to do with Article 4 and Article 5?
Sure. So I've heard some feedback from folks generally in that, I'm just bringing the list up here, that a lot of their articles in their perspective that are, not Board of Selectmen related articles are non-controversial. And I think, with the removal of 40U, I think certainly as I look at the list there, I think 40U is certainly probably the most controversial article. So with that being withdrawn, I think there's I think a less of a concern about making sure that we are communicating with the public early and often on all these articles. With that said, we'll still follow a process that we followed last year, which was, I can't remember actually if open hearing occurred, but I know that the warrant committee is still planning for open hearing, and that I sent the board separately a schedule of proposed dates for public info sessions, pre-town meeting sessions, if you will, where we go through each article, we allow an opportunity for questions and explain a little bit in more detail about what each article is, so that people have a better understanding of the details going into the town meeting, which I know is a big goal of the boards.
What did we do, 2 or 3 last year?
We did. I think we ended up with 3 because, yeah, the third was our Zoom bomb.
No, one was hijacked, my first and only experience.
Same here.
So hopefully we can avoid that this year. Maybe we'll go with 2 this year, or we'll avoid the Saturday date for them.
We may get more people if there's a threat.
Yeah, that was quite the experience. I have to
Definitely images I've never seen before, which is
and never hope to again.
never hope to see again. Exactly.
So I'm also going to ask again. So I guess at the last meeting I raised the issue about if the town had any interest in the Corrigan property, Springdale and Whiting, and if we wanted to do anything to it sits in the center of town. If you wanted to have more control over the center of town in terms of what gets done, we have the likelihood of having the community center over there. What's interesting about the community center in that lot, it's a 3-acre lot, but when you lay out the building and when you lay out the parking area, and when you take into account the need for fire suppression equipment and septic, that 3-acre lot sort of shrinks. Is that property adjacent to the community center? Is it something that we as a town should actually take a run at or not? And I'm going to remind you, and perhaps we can have a discussion at the next February meeting to see if there's anything the board wants to do. But it would be all about, having space for future town needs.
Well, let's touch base on the on an upcoming agenda. We'll follow up on that and
Okay.
we shape out the agenda.
Okay, that'd be great. I'm going to go to the consent agenda unless anybody has anything else to raise, other business. Yeah, we're good. Okay, consent agenda. The following items are included on the consent agenda. Approved special liquor licenses for January 30th, retroactive. Hopefully they've left the premises. And February 12th, 2021. Approve open session meeting minutes for June 5th, June 26th, July 15th, July 17th, September 30th, 2020, January 7th, and January 21st, 2021. And executive session meeting minutes for July 22nd, August 12th, September 17th, 2020, and January 7th, 2021. Someone's been really busy.
Very busy.
Mona, I just want you to know that Robin makes me read the minutes to her out loud while she's walking with the
Good
dog.
bedtime reading. It'll put you to sleep, maybe.
I do. I mean, I have to utilize my time well, so.
Yeah, it's 3 weekends worth of walking to read all the minutes.
All
Well,
right.
very
So
well
any
done.
comments or questions? John?
Thank you, Mona, very well done and
Thank you.
a lot of work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was impressed that we did all that work. Robin?
I thank Mona profusely.
Yeah, that was really a haul. When those things started coming over the transom, it was like unbelievable. All right, then. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Seconded, John Jefferies.
All in favor? Aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jefferies.
I, Robin Hunter.
Great. Then I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, John Jefferies.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jefferies.
I, Robin Hunter. Oh, I forgot.
Have a wonderful Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to all.
And make sure you all behave.
We're all stuck in our homes, so.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't misbehave.
We'll try.
All right, folks. Good night and thank you all very much.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.